Welcome back, everyone. So, this is the second response to Final Fantasy that he left me. At first, I was going to do this video a little bit differently. And as I was reading through the comments, I was like, no, I want to show you guys some things as I go through, because something that this person does is, for one, they make up fallacies that don't exist. And I caught that in the other video I did. When I was reading, he said something was a fallacy and called it some fictitious fallacy that doesn't actually exist. It's not a fallacy that you will go and pick up a logic and critical thinking book or a philosophy book and read anything about. It's not going to. There's no fallacy called that. I didn't say anything because I just wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. But I found another one. And on top of it, somebody who's continuously making up fallacies that don't exist, they are continuously making fallacies of their own, like actual fallacious arguments, well-known fallacies that are known of. So I don't know. All right. So I'm going to put this up here, and so at timestamp 3300, he says, you claim that all inmendham does concerning comments he doesn't like is say, that's stupid, then deletes. That's false that's a false slanderous claim. 99% of the time, it's not slanderous. It's my opinion. Okay? Alright, and I might even agree with you that 99% of the time, when he does delete them, it is justifiable to him. I particularly don't like to delete comments or block people because I think that's counterproductive to having a discussion. If I really think that somebody's like trolling me or just trying to be like a clown or not being serious, like sometimes people leave comments that they're very serious, but you might not think that they're being serious, but they're being serious. So I'm not a big fan of deleting and blocking. I'm not a fan of it. And so watching him do it is like nails on chalkboard. And that's my personal opinion. Just my personal opinion. It's not an argument. It's just my personal opinion. Okay? Alright, so I might agree 99% of the time it's rational. Okay, however he wants to rationalize it, that's fine. Don't care. Inmendham verbalizes good reason for deleting a comment. I've watched many of his videos. Yeah, all of his videos are like 2 hours long. I'm not going to give you... Hold on, we'll get to that. Most of the time, it's just trolls, liars, slanders, slander. Slander is something you can sue someone over. I'm not sure that it's slander. Slander is like a character assassination. It's like where you make up lies and rumors that, like if somebody were to go into his comments and call him a pedophile, with no basis of any evidence or anything like that, but just for the sole purpose of trying to destroy his YouTube channel and his fan base or whatever. That would be slander. And it could also get him in hot legal trouble. And that could actually be a legitimate reason for him to take someone to court and sue them for slander. This is not slander. So I don't know about that. Most of the people that I've seen him delete, like, yeah, there's a lot of people in there that just make stupid comments that he just goes, delete, like he does it to the feminist comment, delete. So, the people that I've seen him delete are other atheists, and even sometimes other anti-natalists, that have counter-arguments to his. And he deletes them. And sometimes his comments to them are actually quite funny. Like he says, no, none of them show their face. They're just pictures of patio furniture. I found that kind of funny because, well, it's kind of true. It's like, why do you represent yourself as patio furniture? That's kind of funny. Good point. Hilarious. Like it. I wouldn't call that slander, though. I mean, if you want to use that word, that's fine. But I wouldn't call it slander. People who don't listen properly, people who want to, well, I think they're listening. I just think that they're trying to raise a different point. People who want to bring up, and if they're not, maybe they are listening properly, maybe they don't understand the concept fully. And maybe he's not communicating effectively, and maybe he needs to address that argument rather than just going, this is stupid, delete. I mean, that's my opinion. Okay, I'm not making an argument, it's just an opinion. I guess I have to preface that. Okay, it's my opinion. I think that he should address the argument regardless of how serious it, or how silly it is. And maybe they don't understand the concept. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know everything about the world. And anyone who does, I'd find that ridiculous. Okay, so, people who want to bring up irrelevant nonsense, people who post silly comedic comments, people who post pointless comments, such and so forth. And yeah, you know, a lot of those would be good reasons. I mean, clowns, liars, trolls, pointless comments. Okay, yeah, if he's deleting them for that reason, I agree. Fine. Well, I don't personally agree. I told you my stance on deleting and blocking. Don't like it. Don't believe in doing it. So that's just me personally. He's a different person. I'm not making a judgment. I'm just saying, from my perspective, that's what it looks like because of the perspective that I'm in. It's purely subjective. It's not even an argument. It's not an argument at all. It's not. It's just an opinion. Okay, anyway. And there is a very rare case where somebody is deleted or blocked for not too good of a reason. I remember such people who got blocked, deleted during Inmendham's live streams, but I cannot recall the exact example. But I do remember the example vaguely, and I know I didn't make it up. Inmendham does have a serious rage streak. Yeah, there's a video of him out there just completely flipping shit on a bunch of atheists where he was just calling them nihilists, because they were like, there's nothing wrong with procreation. And he just kept saying they were nihilists. You know, like, you're a moralist, nihilist. You don't care about the pain and suffering. So it was like, that's when I realized he doesn't really subscribe as a nihilist, just an atheist. Okay. But I can't, okay, but I would argue that it's largely for good reason, and no, it wasn't for good reason. He completely abandoned reason and went to, like, ad hominem. So that's where you abandon reason. I mean, you're just attacking the people and trying to attack the character instead of the argument that they're bringing on. He's not. He didn't attack them in this video with logic and rationality and reason. He completely abandoned logic and reason and just started yelling and screaming at them. That's not rational. That's the opposite. That's behaving emotionally. That's acting out of emotions. It's not rational or logical. So, I mean, saying it's for good reason, that's your opinion, and that's fine. Maybe you think it's for good reason. But personally, I don't. And that's my opinion. That's an opinion. Is it not okay to have an opinion? For good reason and largely put to good use 99% of the time. You need to pay close attention to what Inmendham... See, I could say 99% of the time. Is that an accurate statistic? I can be really technical about it, but I'm not going to because I know what you mean. I'm not... That would just be, stupid. Like, I know what you mean when you say 99%. You can't possibly know the exact figure on that. That's lunacy. You need to pay close attention to what Inmendham says and the comments he's deleting. I guarantee a lot of... And, I agree with that. I would like to listen a little more to Inmendham when I have the time. I just haven't found the time. I guarantee a lot of the time the comments he blocks are from morons. Probably. give me a video and timestamp where he deletes somebody unfairly, and I'll give you 50 where he does. No, we don't need to do that. It's not really like that. This seems nitpicky. No, I'm not doing that. Yeah, I mean, if you want to go ahead and find timestamps of where he's not doing, like where he does it for good reasons, in your opinion, that's fine. You can take the time to do that when his hour to 2 hour long, maybe sometimes even 3 or 4 hour long videos. You can certainly do that. I have other things to do. I don't have that kind of time, so I'm not that interested. I'm not that concerned about why he's deleting comments. I'm really not interested. I'm not. That's just how he operates his channel. That's his choice. If he wants to do that, fine. I choose to operate my channel differently. And you know what? That's fine too. I just, on a personal level, in my opinion, I don't agree with doing it. Is that okay? Can I have a different opinion? Or is that forbidden? Shouldn't be forbidden. Should be perfectly fine. We all have our own little tastes and preferences, don't we? So, timestamp 3415. You think procreation is an individual choice. I'm making the argument that it is. Neutral-Natalism is idiotic by deductive logic. That means you think any mentally ill, rage-filled, narcissistic, lazy, abusive, ignorant, pedophile human being who gives any whack job reason for thinking kids ought to have them. I love how you use this ought. I know how inmendham constantly argues is into an ought argument, and I'm just not interested in that. That's fucking dumb. Did you know that that's a fallacy, what you just did? That's called begging the question. And actually, here, I'm gonna show you that. So, gonna show you this here. Alright, so here's begging the question fallacy. The fallacy of begging the question occurs when an argument's premise assume the truth of the conclusion instead of supporting it. In other words, you assume without proof the stand or position, or a significant part of the stand that is in question. Begging the question is also called arguing in a circle. Here's an example of begging the question that I find fun. Begging the question fallacy occurs when the conclusion is assumed to be true in the argument's premise. Murder is always morally wrong, therefore abortion is morally wrong. Alright, here's another example of begging the question. Begging the question when a premise in an argument assumes a conclusion to be correct. I said, I am always right because I said it. It must be right. Conclusion, I am always right. When a series of assumptions pretend to be an argument. Alright. Wait, I think there was another one in there. There's like this one right here, this little question mark one. Makes an assumption and doesn't ask if the assumption is correct, so avoids asking the important question. And even says, don't sound stupid. Okay. So, that is begging the question, because instead of asking me, do you think that any mentally ill, rage-filled, narcissistic, lazy, abusive, ignorant, pedophile human being who gives any whack jobs ought to have kids? That should be your question to me before trying to take on the premise that I'm okay with that. Oops. No, I'm not okay with that. I think that sucks. But it's human nature. I mean, what you're suggesting is highly authoritarian. You're saying that you think you should be able to control bodily autonomy and the right for people to have, or make the decision to have children. You don't know if a child's going to grow up and become a Hitler. You don't know if they're going to change and take care of... I think most parents set out to do well by their children and take care, but mistakes are made because we're people and we're imperfect. So, I mean, if you're asking for parents to be godlike, it's never going to happen. Most people I meet think their childhood was tragic. And a lot of the times when I hear their stories, it's not as tragic as some other stories I've heard about people who try to look at a more positive side of life and get beyond their childhood experience. So I find that fascinating. They'll be like, oh, my parents were so emotionally abusive, mentally abusive, blah, 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 blah. And then I talk to somebody who was raped by one of their parental figures, and they try to have a positive outlook on life rather than dwelling on the negative and sitting there saying, my parents were just, they'll say my parents were evil dipshits, but they don't sit and walk around mopey, so going, oh, my childhood, oh. They try to be better people than their parents were. I don't know that there's an answer to that. Like, no. I don't like the fact that rage-filled, narcissistic, lazy, abusive, ignorant, pedophile human beings who don't... I don't like the fact that those people have kids. And a lot of the things you mentioned in there, those types of people who have kids and they do that to their children, end up getting their children taken away from them and go to jail because it's called child abuse. That's illegal for a reason, I mean, I figured that would be common sense, but no, you are making the assumption I'm okay with these things, and I'm not. No, that's a fallacy. That's begging the question. Okay. And then you say that's fucking dumb. Yeah, I agree with you. That's fucking dumb. No, I wish those people wouldn't have children. I think that I really wish people would make responsible decisions when having kids and not have kids unless they're able to be fiscally responsible for them and responsible for their emotional and mental needs as well. Okay? You think it was fine that Hitler had himself kids, which he did. Okay. He had kids. Why is that not fine that he had kids? Did his kids grow up and behave the same way? Or were they different? Seriously. What are you going to do about it? He had a long line of family members. He had a sister named Paula. Does that mean Paula agreed with his policies? Probably not. I don't know. I didn't read up on Paula. I didn't read up on Hitler's sister. Not everyone who is related to him automatically agrees with everything he's done. That's an assumption. It's irrational to impose on bodily autonomy when wasted torture and suffering would be prevented. Okay, yeah, life is not possible without tears. But it's not your place to dictate whether or not somebody can make the decision to have kids. As much as that might hurt and hurt your brain, maybe you can't wrap your head around it. I don't know. You don't have the authority to tell someone they can or cannot have kids. Period. Especially in a blatant example such as having kids. Why do you think any evil... Isn't evil a spiritual concept? I don't know. Irresponsible person should have kids, when at the same time I bet you think that everyone should have a license to drive. Again, you're assuming my position. No, I don't. So your bet is wrong. So folks should fulfill qualifications to drive, but not to have kids. Well, having kids, having sex, reproduction is something that occurs naturally. Are you going to police animals and their reproduction? I mean, I don't think that's a good idea. That can seriously just disrupt the ecosystem. You want to talk about man's hand and mishandling the environment? That would do it. Let's get animals to stop reproducing. Completely fuck up the entire localized ecosystem, depending on the species. Possibly the global ecosystem. And then humanity will once again be responsible for something we attribute through our own moral judgment as being an atrocity. I don't think that's a good idea. I do think we should calm down on having kids. Record amounts of people in the world, 7 billion people. You know, I don't think every family needs to have 15 children, or possibly even 2. You know, like, I don't think we should be reproducing like rabbits at this point. We're kind of a big animal for that. But I'm not going to presume that I have the authority to tell a person whether or not they can or cannot reproduce, nor do I have the authority to tell and to take control over an animal species, of any species of animal, to control their reproductive behavior. It occurs naturally. Okay. Why is driving more important than raising a decent child or a decent family? No. Again, you're making an assumption. Raising a decent child is more important to me than the ability to drive. But when you talk about authoritarian measures the way you are, you're talking about something very, very serious. You're talking about totalitarianism. And on a political line, that's not something I'm for. So I don't know what to tell you on that. Like, education. And there's studies that show educated people are less likely to reproduce. They don't reproduce until later on in life. All right, timestamp 3737. You say, so what and who cares, to the notion that perfect gluttony is what humanity is paying for in immeasurable amounts of suffering. So first it was measurable, now it's immeasurable. I don't know. I'm of the persuasion that it's really hard to compare pain and pleasure. You can take a painful event and compare it to a different or similar painful event and compare and contrast the difference in pain levels. And you could do the same for pleasure. You could take a pleasurable event and another pleasurable event and compare those two. But it's really hard to take a pleasurable event and compare it to a painful event and discern which is better or which is worse. Obviously, the pleasurable event is going to be better, and obviously the painful event is going to be worse. So how do you come to the conclusion, though, that the painful event is so painful that it negates the pleasurable event? Because it just wasn't pleasurable enough. I don't know how you come up with that. I don't know how you come up with an objective, solid, ace in the hole, that is objective fact. I don't know how you do that. That sounds like subjectivity to me, and it's going to depend on the individual. Each individual's response to that is going to be different. And it's true. And people perceive pain differently. Pain is recognized as being subjective in many instances. I mean, you know, like you could break someone's arm and pretty much everyone's going to agree. Maybe an idiot out there that thinks they're a badass is going to say, no, that's not painful, I'm a tough dude. But any rational person is going to say, yeah, that's painful. But there's other things out there where it's like, it's subjective. Like, somebody comes in to the hospital and says they feel a pain in their gut. And you do x-rays and all this sort of stuff, and there's nothing there. You can't just look at the person and say, you're not in pain. Because pain is subjective. You have to take them for their word. They probably are in pain, you just don't know why. Some people have different pain tolerances too. I've brought that up before. That's why they call pain subjective. It's because different people have different thresholds of pain, and they consider different things to be, like, you might consider a broken arm more painful than the loss of a loved one. Other people might feel differently. Some people feel that physical pain is better than emotional pain. Some people feel that emotional pain is better than physical pain. That is subjective. It's an opinion. It's a matter of preference, taste, and choice. And I don't know how you're going to change that. You're not magical, so I don't know how you're going to change that. Now, if you're going to make an argument to that, you would give me an argument on how you would change that. All right, last one. Wait, I already... Okay, we're already reading the last one. I just read this. Okay. Your response to this supposed claim of mine is, that's a disgusting and stupid question to ask. Didn't see a question in there. Even the theists recognize that existence in the context of secularism is horrific, cruel, pointless, unfair, etc. And that is why, with the death of God, it is our moment in time with enlightenment to define morality for ourselves based off of rationality and logic, as well as define the meaning of life for ourselves. For me, it is experience and the connections you make with other people. That is the meaning and purpose of life. And to be cognitively aware of my own existence, self-awareness. That is the meaning for me. It might differ from person to person. I talked to a guy the other night, and he told me that to him, the meaning of life is to teach. So that's his meaning. That's the purpose of life for him. Biologically, our purpose is to eat, sleep, poop, pee, and reproduce. And it's as simple as that. And yes, I will agree that life has a lot of cruelty in it. The world is pretty fucking dark. Pretty fucking cruel. Yeah. So, no, I'm not going against these other atheists. Or theists don't say that. Theists are weird. A lot of atheists understand this concept that you're talking about. it's trying to overcome that hurdle. And that's what Friedrich Nietzsche was doing, is he didn't want people to fall into the abyss. He wanted people to still find meaning in life, even though everything was meaningless. It's the difference between existentialist philosophy and nihilist philosophy. Friedrich Nietzsche was actually against nihilism, and he wanted to fight nihilism by creating an atheistic standpoint of where we define our morality and our reason for living through logic and critical thinking. And then you say that makes me dumber than theists. Okay? Who cares would be folks who have respect for themselves and respect for the value of suffering and a life filled with toil and hard work. I'm not afraid of hard work. If you're afraid of hard work, you're in trouble, and you sound like you might be very, very lazy. That's an assumption. I don't know that you are. Now, I am staunchly against being under the boot, the system, the machine. I do not like being told that I have to live for a company. I am anti-establishment, and I think a lot of what the establishment does and social rules, I'm a social critic, are counterproductive and antithetical to our own human nature. And it makes life harder than it needs to be. So what else were we? Value of suffering. So a life filled with toil. It's like nothing but darkness. Nothing but toil. Okay. The so what is the perfect gluttony isn't a good rational prize for all the torture and death. No. No, it's not. I agree with that. That occurred to get it. You don't need to engage in torture and death to be hedonistic, to be a hedonist. You don't. And I would recommend hedonism in, respectively, like, in moderation. Not pure gluttony. Gluttony is just another word for religious thing. Okay, the fact that folks desire, it does not imply an ought. They ought to do it because they desire it. No. That's true. Desire doesn't lead to an ought. Yeah, that's true. But desire is motivation. Objective or intrinsic value does. And not subjective value. The subjective opinion, the value of subjectivity and opinion exists, whether you like that or not. There are some things that just cannot be defined by fact. Like, my taste in tea is not objective or intrinsic, but that doesn't mean that it's fallacious just because you don't like it, and I do. So, I'm sorry, that doesn't fly. The value of infinite gluttony isn't a good. It's a neutral at best. It doesn't need to manifest, and the only reason people want it is because they have an irrational addiction to it, and or it relieves a suffering within themselves. Yeah. And Karl Marx and Friedrich Nietzsche were against it and thought that you should deal with your internal pain rather than trying to run from it. Now, I personally don't have a problem with people trying to engage in a little escapism from now and then, but you can't run from reality forever. That's why I say moderation. If you remain glib about that, then that makes you a philosophical clown and disqualifies you from philosophical debate with theists concerning atheism. Why? Because you ultimately don't care about rationality, because you commit move the goalpost fallacy. That is not a fallacy. There is no such thing as move the goalpost fallacy. And I'm not moving the goalpost. I'm not moving the goalpost at all. And I've never used the word gluttony, and I'm not saying that a Holocaust is worth it because you get to use heroin. That's not what I'm saying. If that's what you think I'm saying, I think maybe you need to have more dialogue with me to understand, a better position of where I stand, instead of just assuming the outmost worst possible case scenario out of an individual. And then you go on to say, when it comes to your own ego. Okay. So stay out of debates then, since your ultimate goal is not rationality, but your own silly ape ego. Oh, of course, I'm a human people monkey and I have an ego and I like to stroke it. Duh. The goal of anti-natalism, efilism, and serious philosophers is rationality truth. I put secular humanism as a whole in the same foolish pit as your ego nihilism. Well, that's extra funny, because secular humanism and nihilism are way more popular philosophies than anti-natalism. Two dumb as fuck philosophies on worse foundations than religion. The humanism secularist idea is very idealistic, but as far as ideals go, it's probably the closest to being the most obtainable one that's been put forward yet. True nihilism, true full-fledged, flat-out nihilism, is the complete ability to just break apart the foundation of morality and ethics. And basically say, since there is no God, there are no morals. They don't exist. And you are completely capable of being extremely critical of moral judgment and ethics. That's what straight up nihilism is. Nothing matters. And some of the arguments I've made, I have said deliberately, I'm going to argue from a moral nihilist stance and say that it doesn't matter. That is not my personal stance. I'm more on, in the center of the ability to criticize morality from the center a little bit over to the left is probably where I am at. I don't think morality or ethics is objective. I think it's subjectively defined, but we subjectively define them through logic and critical thinking, which is what Friedrich Nietzsche was encouraging us to do. And a lot of philosophers, actually, and existentialist philosophers. In the center to the right on that compass is morality is objective, but it can be explained through evolutionary processes. So they think that there's on the atheist side of objective morality, they think morality is absolutely objective. It just comes from, it has a bedrock there. But it probably comes from some point of evolutionary processes. Whereas I'm saying, there is no objective morality. We invented it. But the reason we did create it is probably due to evolutionary processes, our ability to empathize, sympathize, whatnot. And I'm not saying that just because of that it's bad and should be rejected. I'm saying there's good reason we have ethics and morality. Maybe you should open up a conversation with me. Just saying. And moving the goalpost fallacy, that's not a real thing. That's not a fallacy. I don't know what you mean by that. Maybe you should find the actual fallacy of what you're talking about. And I think it's funny that you say that have no place in debates, blah, 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 blah. And you're making up fallacies that don't exist. These are not actual fallacies that exist. And committing actual fallacies yourself by assuming my stance. And putting that, and just assuming that. Just putting that in form. Like, you're begging the question repeatedly. So, no. No. I'm just putting myself out there. Take what you will of it. I mean, I don't think this has to be as hate-filled as you're making it. And that's your choice. But I think if you want to get better, I think you should probably calm down. This is my opinion. This is not an argument. It's a suggestion. Calm down. Stop being so angry and try to actually ask questions to figure out where I would actually stand on these erroneous assumptions you make. And that's up to you. I can't make you do anything. I don't impose my will on others against their own will. At least I try not to. I'm human. I'm not perfect. For fuck's sake. I'd like to really know how you're going to stop people from reproducing. That's an interesting question. Good luck with that. Let me know when that happens. And then you tell me who's living in a fantasy. So, I'm sorry. You made some shoddy remarks at me. I mean, just being insulting. I haven't been insulting to you or inmendham. I think I've been pretty reasonable. So, I don't understand this insulting stuff. You should be asking questions, which is what I started doing with anti-natalism, because I sought out to try and understand it. And I wanted to find a different road. Like a different path to take other than, well, everything is nothing and nothing is everything. We should just stop. We should just give up. It's like, well, that goes against the existentialist philosophies in the past. Is that they wanted to find a reason for life, but that reason had to come from with us. We had to give life meaning to ourselves. And it's like the anti-natalists have completely abandoned that. So for all sense and sakes and purposes, you guys are the nihilists. You fell into the abyss. Life is meaningless, therefore it shouldn't exist. And you throw in the claim that it's predominantly filled with pain to try to substantiate that claim. It is a syllogism. So it's like, okay, you made your argument. I hear you. And you make some pretty good claims. It's hard to poke holes in. I'm just saying, it's just like the atheist nihilist moral compass, or the morality, or the ability to criticize morality and ethics, is a scale. And I'm trying to make this into a scale too. It's like you have pro-natalism, neutral-natalism, anti-natalism, and then variations in between. That's what I'm trying to establish. And that's what a true philosopher would do. Not just say, I'm right. Fuck you. I'm just right. So, why are you arguing with me? Because I'm just right. That's egotistical. Maybe entertain the idea that you might possibly be right. Someone else might be right with a different approach. I'll put it to you that way. So, instead of making assumptions, talk to me. All right, I'm out.